Riding the wind of success against the hardwood, I was motivated to forge ahead, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, and ran in circles. A couple of hours later, I realized that this was a dead end, so I decided to go somewhere else just to get obliterated by Baba Yaga. I almost had her if I hadn't been stuck here with this camera angle.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Fatality.
10 minutes later, I came out victorious. One of the easiest opponents in my gaming life. All this trouble for one Titanite shard. Score! After achieving a big victory against Baba Yaga, I was clueless. With my biggest opponent gone, I lost purpose in my life. The only thing left me thinking was, would I lose health if I dropped down here? I realized I could ninja jump this guy and finally found a formidable enemy. I was wrong. He crumbled under my might like a cookie. As I continued exploring, I found a shiny object just around this corner. It took me quite some time to convince myself to take a leap of faith. All worth it for a rusted coin. After some exploration, I finally found some action. Look at my perfect reflexes. They stood no chance to my blades. Oh, and I found a whip. Kinky. I immediately wanted to test it out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Nice. But I think I'm gonna stick to my blades. They are deadly. And I want to finish this game. This time. See how they chop these golems with ease. I moved slowly here for added intensity. Dun, 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 dun. As I fought these guys here, I realized that the game is not that hard. You just have to pick your fights carefully, and you have to know what you're doing. The problem is, I have no clue, and Baba Yaga made sure I was aware of that. As you might have guessed, I learned slowly, and I'm a very stubborn person. I thought maybe if I cleared the field, I might have more chance of dodging her attacks. And sure enough, the victory was mine. Enjoy this beautiful dance with blades. As I strolled away from the combat field, pointing to the ground, symbolizing to Baba Yaga that was where she belongs, 2 feet under. I felt confident in my skills, so I kept wreaking havoc in search of a worthy opponent. I didn't have to search for long. I got cornered by this stupid dog, who just couldn't stop attacking. After I've dealt with the dogs, I found rats. Now usually in other games, rats pose literally no threat at all. But this is no ordinary game, and I've had some trouble fighting them. Luckily I came out victorious and kept going. Although it seemed like I knew what I was doing, I had no clue. I wasn't even sure if I was going in the right direction. As I saw this arena-like clearing, I expected a boss fight, and this guy scared the shit out of me. With just 1 flask and no health, I barely made it alive. But as Vin Diesel said in Fast and Furious, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning. And I got my next Titanite shard. Score! After that, I did the only logical thing I could think of. Return to Bonfire the same way I came from. And then this happened. Fuck my luck. To make matters worse, my souls were not at the place my corpse fell, so I had to go back up to take them. Luckily, I had no trouble getting them. Not like I had a fortune in my back pocket, but still, souls are souls. I went back to Firelink for shopping, upgraded my weapon and Estus flasks, and leveled up my Vigor. As I returned to the sewers, I wanted to see what was behind that mist. I wondered the first time but was too afraid to check. Well, what do you know? A giant rat. I didn't know how strong he was, so I ran. I was disappointed. The 3 rats were more challenging than this fat puck. Well, at least I got the ring I'm gonna replace as soon as I find something better. And I continued down the sewers and past the skeletons to the place from which I ran like there was no tomorrow last time. Journey sure felt like I was going to Mount Doom to destroy the One Ring. Surprise, surprise, more rats. Even they posed more threat than the giant one. But I managed to cut them all down without remorse and kept going. Then I found this poor soul that wanted me to touch her. Of course, I would never take advantage of... Well, you didn't see that happen. After a little bit of awkwardness, I got a prayer. I'm sure gonna need to pray a lot to finish this game. As I continued, I met this friendly fella.
All you faceless undead, behaving as if you deserved respect. Now you're poking around in people's cells. How very noble.
Asshole. After that, I met this onion armored guy. At first I was not sure if he's gonna attack me or help me. So I kept my distance, like back in the COVID days. Okay, now it's all clear to me. He wanted to go up to talk to that giant that was throwing spears at the graveyard back from the previous episodes. So, as a sweetheart I am, I sacrificed myself to this motherfucker for him to go to talk to big guy. How fucking helpful of him. Of course I died. What did you expect? This is a story of a victim, not a freaking superhero movie. So again, sewers, rats, mortar, elevator, just to die. Once more. In an epic fight between David and Goliath, David came on top and got a nice sword. After opening this gate, there was a sight for sore eyes, a bonfire. That meant only one thing. Leveling up my endurance so I can endure more suffering this game throws at me. Next up, we are going backwards to explore the last part because I was too afraid to explore it. Because if I died, it meant sewers, rats, mortar, and the elevator again. Now I can use the elevator to go up and meet this lovely dude and ask him politely to stop throwing the fucking spears at me. I got a tree branch as a token of our friendship. Of course I returned to see if he will hold on to his part of the deal and stop throwing the fucking spears at me. Soon I realized even if he was throwing the spears at me, he was not damaging me. So I could just run around and kill all those guys with his spears. That was the first time anyone had actually helped me in this game. I explored the graveyard and found a hat. That's when I decided it was time to move on. My story is yet to be written on the road of sacrifices. How promising. After killing a bunch of beaky buzzards along the way, I gained back my confidence, which meant only one thing. I'm gonna regret it soon. I kept moving and for the first time I felt like a protagonist in this game. It sure felt good. Even dealing with the larger group of enemies didn't feel challenging like fighting a bunch of rats. I managed to slay them all. Keep moving. At this point, I was thinking of doing a speedrun challenge. I lit the next bonfire and was thrilled to meet some friendly faces along the way. They told me they were in search for the same thing as I am, but of course they are not going to help me because it's Dark Souls. I realized I have a lot of unspent souls, so I came back to Firelink to level up. I've put 2 points in dexterity for more damage and went back to the road of sacrifices. The nights were gone without me. Remember how I told you I was gonna regret my confidence? Well, here it is, me regretting it. I got impaled so many times, it's like I enrolled in the javelin catching Olympics without realizing it. I've become a human pincushion, the only competition I didn't sign up for, yet here I am. Mastering the art of impalement with a surprising expertise. Forget about acupuncture, I've taken it to a whole new level. If impaling were a sport, I'd be undisputed champion by now. Eventually I managed to get my souls and kept on moving. And soon enough, a giant crab appears out of nowhere. Can I get some room to breathe in this game? Just when I thought I had found my rhythm, the giant crab decided to play hide and seek. I figured this was the sign from God to run and never look back. That's what I did. Back to bonfire. Venturing to the other side for a bit of a breather, I fancied myself a conqueror of a less formidable foes, basking in the false glow of courage. Little did I know, the giant crab was just lurking at the back of my mind, its pincers practically twitching with anticipation. I got a titanite shard, which was helpful, and also beat the living shit out of these mushrooms. That pumped up my confidence, even though they pose literally no threat. Although this creepy cross fella is as dangerous as a ladybug, I wanted to show you this graceful roll at the beginning of the fight. Replay is sponsored by From Software, a studio that makes games similar to anime with an overpowered protagonist. Except you're not the protagonist. See? Vlad the Impaler is back. I got my souls back and returned to Bonfire because I felt I could waste them somewhere along the road. I returned to Firelink Shrine to level up my dexterity and returned back to the swamp to face my nemesis. This time, he stood no chance as I swung my twin blades with such finesse that it felt like symphony of steel turning the battlefield into a dance floor of destruction, and his defeat became the grand finale of my lethal performance. Ta-da! As I saw the seeds of destruction in these rooms, I transformed into an unstoppable force, effortlessly slashing through the waves of enemies. With every precise move and calculated strike, I felt exhilarating rhythm of a battle taking over, as I kept rolling, and soon enough I saw the light at the end of the dark tunnel. Except this light was a train coming from another direction in form of Crystal Sage, the next boss. I hid behind a pillar, just as Hero would. Actually, this fight was quite straightforward for me. I had to close my distance and kept attacking her, like that. I used pillars to bait her attacks and looked for a chance to close in on her. Get a couple of attacks in, which was already too much for her, so she had to run. I was not up for another hide and seek, so I called her out. When she crawled out of her hole, I repeated the process. Bait the attack, hide behind the pillars, and attack. What I didn't expect was a bunch of clones in the second phase, but the tactic was the same. An interesting fact about the clones, they all cast blue magic, as opposed to Sage's purple. So here you can either go for clones and kill them, or use throwing knives to take them out from distance, it only takes one attack. Then go for Sage, or go for purple caster immediately, but you'll have to be careful of other attacks. It took some practice, but I managed to triumph over her. Overall, a fun fight and a step forward in my first playthrough. So that brings us to the end of the story for this time. I figured I should shorten the video since most of you are skipping through the boring parts, so I did that for you. I will always improve on delivering the content my followers want to watch. If you found value in this video or had fun watching it, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Hit that bell button so you don't miss out on a new gameplay, reviews and gaming news. Have a fun gaming time.